Hello and welcome back to the studio. Today I'm going to have a cute, cozy and relaxing day in the studio, and I'm just going to work on some projects that I think will be fun at this moment, and I'm just going to take you with me. So I'm glad you're here and let's get into it. I actually have a list on my phone and I've been working on this list for quite some time, and it's a very long list. You can read it if you want. It is in Dutch though. But I have a very long list of things that I want to make, and all of those things are going to be for myself and for my boyfriend in case we move out, if we ever can afford to move out. I want to take all of these things with me and just use it in the house so that I don't have to buy any ceramics, since, well, I'm a ceramic artist and I would like to use my own ceramics. So I've come up with a list with some things that I really need, like I need a plate to eat from, but also some fun little other extra things that you can just use in the house that you don't necessarily have to have, but that I think would just be fun. I'm going to take you with me on most of those things. In this video I'm just going to work on a few of them. Later on this year, later on in the video, I will also work on more things. But I have decided that I'm not going to make it a full series on taking you with me on every detail. I did that with the high tea birthday set that I made, and it was like 8 or 9 videos long, I think. And that was so much work and I really liked it, I enjoyed it, but I just want to take these things a little bit more relaxed. Sometimes I'm in the mood to record and then I will just record. Sometimes I'm not really in the mood to record, but I am in the mood to make something for my future house. So that's why I've decided to just record whenever I feel like and whenever I think a project is fun. I'm also going to work on some more complicated designs and things for the house, and I think it would be fun to turn those into an instruction video, so it's like a little bit more informative. And I will be posting them here on YouTube, and also some will maybe turn into a workshop video on Calder's community. calderscommunity.com, you can take a look if you'd like to learn anything about ceramics that I know. Today I do feel like throwing, so I'm going to throw everything that I'm going to make today, and later on I'll probably do a slab building video as well, because I also have quite some slab building projects in mind. One thing that I do want to make today, and it's not that big, it's not exciting. I mean, I find it exciting, it is exciting, never mind. I want to make a little oval shaped plate, and that is because I want to make a toothbrush holder, but my boyfriend and I both use electric toothbrushes, so we don't really need something to put it inside of or something. They can just stand on their own, but sometimes they get a little bit dirty or like some water still runs down from them. So I think it would be nice to have a little oval shaped plate that can hold 2 electric toothbrushes. That's the idea. Now the thing with throwing things is that they turn out circular. So I'm going to kind of experiment with different things by like throwing a plate, cutting out a shape and then like kind of closing it, and then trying to get it into a nice looking oval shape. Not entirely sure yet how I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to cut out a few different shapes, try it a few times and see what I prefer, which shape looks nicest. And while I'm making the plate that is going to become oval, I might also make one that is going to be a spatula resting thingy. Do you call it a spatula? Like the thing you use when you're cooking. That gets dirty and you want to place it down on your countertop, but you don't want your countertop to get dirty, so you can make a little plate for that. I've actually, funny enough, never made that before. It's like something that's very common within pottery, and it's also very beginner friendly, so I don't know why I've never made it. Something else that I would like to make is a berry bowl. I just want to make some holes, which I am going to do tomorrow. Today will be the throwing part. Tomorrow, when it's leather hard, I'm going to continue working on it. Okay, I'm also going to throw a big ball. It's been some time since I've thrown a big ball. Right now on Instagram I'm doing a series where I throw big vases, and I'm thinking about, after I finish that series, make a series about throwing bigger balls. But I am actually quite excited to throw a big ball today, so I'm just going to throw a big ball that we can just use for a salad or for some bread in the morning. After throwing 2 little plates I'm later on going to try to make oval after they've dried for a bit, I'm now going to work on the spatula holder, and for that I have this top view for you so that you can see what's going on from the top. I don't know if this is handy. I think it is, because you can see my hand placement quite well, and that way you can kind of learn how I hold my hands, how I move and how I make something like this. But it's actually quite easy. and it goes quite fast. I start by just centering the clay and then I press it down, and after that I use a sponge to just pull out some clay towards the sides, and I often repeat that 2 times to make the bottom as thin as I'd like it to be and also to make sure it's nice and flat. But to fully flatten it I also like to go over it with this wooden loamer. It's just a regular flat loamer that I press down to just make it nice and flat. And then I just put a little bit more attention to the rim and I pull the rim a little bit more upwards. You can just make this as high as you'd like. And then I get rid of the water and slip that's on the piece and I just clean it up a little bit. And I also get rid of some excess clay at the bottom. This will save me some trimming. And I also clean my bed. And then the throwing part is actually already done, and the next thing that I do is press one side a little bit downwards, and as you can see I just do that with my index finger. It's very easy, I just softly wipe it over the clay so that it flattens a little bit, and you can just flatten it as far down as you'd like and make it as wide as you'd like. But I would personally go for something like this so that any spatula would fit onto it. And then I thought, what happens when my spatula holder is in the dishwasher? So I decided to make another one so that we have a set of 2 and then, well, one can go into the dishwasher while we're using the other one. So I'm just sitting down here with my cozy wood stove on, as you can see, and I'm just making another one in the same way. Time for a little studio update. I thought it would be fun to incorporate this in more videos and show you around the studio, show you what's going on, show you what I'm working on. And first of all, what I would like to show you is the little vase that I made in the previous video. No, the previous video was about the V4 pottery wheel. The video before that, I took you along to make pottery inspired by a poster, and the pieces are finished. I did do a community post here on YouTube. I never did that before. I also don't think I've ever seen a community post on YouTube before, but I posted the pictures on YouTube. I didn't even know I could do that, honestly. You can see them there as well, but I don't really know if that like pops up on your For You page on YouTube. Don't know, but I thought if you haven't seen them and you have seen that video and you're interested in seeing them, here they are. I'm very happy with how they turned out. The colors are quite similar to the poster, so I'm really happy how that turned out. Also got some cute little tulips from friends because it was my birthday last weekend. That's also why I have birthday decorations. I think it looks really cute. I love how this carving worked out with the white lines, and yeah, overall I just love it. It also matches with the flowers nicely. I feel like, yeah, I'm happy with it, and I'm also going to take this with me when I move out, and it can just stand on our kitchen table together with the picture that I made in the same video. And here is the picture. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I also love both the pieces as a set together. The only thing that I'm not the happiest about, but maybe I'm just being too hard on myself, but here at the bottom there's like a little bit of a lighter line here, also here on the foot. I should have applied the engobe a little bit thicker there. I think I applied 2 coats all of the piece and just kind of forgot this little piece here, or I was too scared that I would mess it up. Or it's still, yeah, not entirely sure. But overall, it looks really cute, and also the little dots actually turned out way smoother than I expected, and I just love how the clear glaze looks on top of it. Something else that I've been working on, and I also talked about in the previous studio vlog, is that I've been making mugs for glaze combinations, and I'm going to post all of those glaze combinations on calderscommunity.com. About 2/3 of the mugs have now been fired and glaze fired, and I'm very happy with all of the results. I still have to glaze fire 1/3 of the mugs, and that's going into the kiln today. I'm going to show you a few of my favorites so that you know what is coming up, okay? This is my very favorite, which I did not expect, so maybe that's why it is my favorite so far, because I always like shiny glazes, but it's actually a matte glaze, but with a little bit of a shiny rim, and I love that combination. This is like nice and matte. I don't know if I pronounce matte correctly, I don't know, but I love that it's like shiny at the rim. Love how this turned out. Also love the blue color. I think looks really cool. Let's grab another of my favorites. Oh, this one is lovely. Oh, I cannot choose. It's hard to pick just a few because I have a whole lot of favorites. Look at this. This one has like a pink background and then some blue on top of it. And I think that looks lovely with like a little bit of a lighter rim here. And I love this little drip here. It just dripped down a little in the kiln. And I absolutely love that. Okay, I'm going to show you two more. This is another of my favorites, maybe my very favorite, not entirely sure yet. I gave this one 3 strokes of color and I think that worked really well, otherwise it probably would not have been my favorite, because I think that really adds to the piece, and if I would just do 1 thick stroke of the blue color it would be a little bit too boring in my opinion. But the 3 strokes work really well together. Also dripped down a little bit, I just love those little drips. Okay, now the very last mug I'm going to show you. I love how this one turned out. It has little dots at the rim. And I worked with pink background, red and white on top of it. The red and white melted into each other in a nice little rim here at the bottom. I just think it looks really cute, and I think I'm going to work more with these little dots at the rim because I just think it's really cute and I want this in more colors as well. And just like that I glazed 52 mugs, which was a lot of work. It was 293 coats of glaze and every coat has to be in the right spot. I had to write down how many coats I did, otherwise I would forget, and I did like a whole lot of different glazes at the same time. And they also, which maybe even took the longest, had to dry in between coats. So that was a little bit annoying, but it's important to let your glaze dry in between coats. And something else that I have been working on, I'm not entirely sure if I should show you this. I always struggle, like do I like announce it when it's finished or do I show you the behind the scenes before it's finished? But you know what? I will show you the behind the scenes. I made salad servers, so like big spoons that you can use to serve a salad, I guess. And I think they turned out really cute. I've never made them before, not entirely sure how I'm going to glaze them yet. We're in the middle of the process, and that is actually going to be a workshop on Calder community. I think they turned out really cute so far. I hope they won't break when I'm going to pick them up and bring them to the kiln. I'll be very careful when doing that. And another project, I've been working on a lot of things at the same time, love it. I have been working with dark clay combined with white clay. So I have a black clay and a white clay. My white clay is the regular clay that I work with. And I got a black clay and I've been putting that into my pieces while I'm throwing. Yeah, I did different experiments. I just started off with a white ball of clay, a black ball of clay, put them on top of each other and threw something. And I also did 3 different experiments with balls, which I will share in reels on Instagram. I did 3 experiments with putting clay on a centered piece. So I first centered a white ball of clay and then I put little pieces of black on top of it, and I tried that in different ways. So for example, this little vase has little lines at the rim and I love how it looks. I'm not complaining about it or anything, but I hope that the lines would just go from the bottom all the way up to the rim. And it kind of just disappeared and only like went up while throwing apparently, which I did not expect, but it does look really cool. And I think I will be doing more experimenting with this in the future. Maybe I'll also make a full dedicated YouTube video on working with different colors of clay in one piece. I also have a few bigger vases here in the bag that I threw for the Instagram challenge that I'm doing. I'm adding 500 grams of clay each time that I throw a vase. So the smaller one is like I think 1 kilogram and the bigger one is now 3 kilograms. But that's enough talking, let's just continue working. It is time to turn this little circular plate into an oval plate, and to do so I first just cut it off of the bed. It has been drying for 2 hours now, so it's a little bit harder, but it's still softer than leather hard. You don't want it to become leather hard before you try something like this, because otherwise you can't really fold the clay as far as you may like to fold it. So with this little plate I'm going to cut out one big shape in the middle, and then I'm going to press the sides towards each other, if that makes sense. Not entirely sure if it's going to work out. I'm just trying it out. I've never done this before, so no idea if it will work. Wait, let me actually draw a little line in the middle. I don't know how close to the rim I should be cutting, but I think I'm just going to cut out this part. So I just softly press the knife into the clay. And I'm cutting out this shape. And I hope that if I now press both sides towards each other, it will turn into an oval shape. but I'm honestly not entirely sure. Yes, okay. So I'm just softly going to press it inwards, put an even amount of pressure on it. It's working, but maybe I've cut out a little bit too much. There's a little bit too much clay here, so I'm actually going to cut out a bit more clay here. Then I think it will close a bit easier, but honestly no idea. And I'll do the same thing here at the bottom, and I will just continue pressing it towards each other. I think this would kind of be the shape that I was going for in my head, so I cut out a little bit too much clay, but I'm not mad about it. I'm just going to continue pressing this towards each other. It's cracking a little bit here in the middle because yeah, it's becoming wider, and yeah, maybe there's just not enough clay in the middle. I'm honestly not sure. Oh, okay, it's completely cracking. I'm afraid that I just cut out too much. I have no idea if I'm able to save this. I'm just going to try my best. So now I can just press these sides onto each other like this. This goes fine, but this just, yeah, unfortunate. I'm going to just prepare it with a little bit of clay. So I'm just grabbing a little piece of clay from the clay that I just cut out, and I'm just going to place that in here. Yeah, at this point maybe I should have just hand builded it, because now I'm also kind of hand building. But with the next plate, I'm going to show that to you. I'm going to cut it in a different way so that you actually keep the middle in. Let me just fill in these little holes and smooth it out a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next plate. I grabbed a wet sponge to smooth this out a little bit more. I'm a little bit afraid of what the bottom will look like. I mean, it worked, but it was not ideal. So let's try it out with the other one, if I can get this off the table without it cracking again. Okay, it cracked again. This is what the bottom looks like. Yeah, I'm afraid that this is just not going to work. I am going to smooth this out, but I first want to just try the other one to see if that works better. But you can just press this onto each other like this. Here I have the other plate. Let's see how this other way of cutting it will work out. So the main problem with the previous one is that the middle cracked, which I did not expect, but if I'm thinking about it now, should have thought about that. But now I'm going to show you a different way of cutting it, which is kind of the same shape, but we're splitting it in half and cutting out one shape here and one shape here. And that way you leave the middle part, and then it doesn't have to bend that far. I'm going to cut it right here. I'm not cutting it yet, I'm just drawing it on to see where I'm going to cut it. Maybe I should also have done this while the clay was still very wet. Now it's a little bit drier. But then if you touch it, you get fingerprints everywhere, and I also don't really like that. So that's why I decided to just let it dry for 2 hours. Try to take this out. Whoop. This time the middle can't crack, but here we still have little sides that can crack, but I think it will be just fine. Well, I'm just going to now slowly press it inwards, and we're going to see what happens. I am going to cut away a little bit more clay here, just a little bit further upwards, because it's starting to crack here, and that's because there's too much clay, and we can easily fix that by just cutting away a little bit more. It's a little bit more rectangle and a little bit less oval than the previous one, but it is not completely falling apart, so that is nice. The previous one I saw that it easily collapsed, so I'm actually going to put a little bit of vinegar in between it. Okay, so I'm just going to open it up a little bit again, and I'm just going to make some scratches on the inside with this scratching tool. Just scratch, 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 scratch. Same thing on the other side. I'm just scratching one side, I think that will be enough. Then I take a brush with a little bit of vinegar, and I'm just going to put some vinegar in between here. I'm going to scratch it a little bit more on both sides. And then I'm going to just close it by pressing it onto each other. Let's see how that goes. This may not be my favorite piece I've ever made, but maybe it will be good enough to hold my toothbrush. Press this onto this as well. If I would do it again, I would keep the middle part not this wide and just make it a little bit smaller. If you know a better way to make an oval plate, please let me know, because I definitely still have something to learn. Maybe I should have done a bit more research, because I didn't really research it. I thought I'd just try it myself. Let me see if I can carefully lift it without it cracking open. Yeah, it's a little bit open but didn't crack. Just going to close this a little bit. And tomorrow I will get back to this bottom and just give it a little bit more love. Yeah, this opened up a little bit, but now that the bottom is closed, this will not open up again. And I'm also not going to pick it up before it's leather hard, so I'm just going to leave it at this exact spot. Now that I'm looking at it, I do kind of like this shape a little bit more than this shape, since this is a bit more oval and this is a bit more, what do you call that? Square-ish? Rectangle, that's the word. This one is a little bit more rectangle. So I am actually going to get rid of this little crack here as well. Oh, it's very thin as well, that does not help with this one. I decided to just smooth out this other plate as well, because yeah, I just wanted to try it out and put some vinegar in between it, just like with the other one. Scratched it in the middle, even though it was very thin, and just pressed it onto each other. Went over it with a sponge, put a little bit of clay at the parts where it was a little bit thinner, smoothed it out, and yeah. Come back next video to see if this one survives and what happens if I turn it around, because I did not smooth out the bottom. So yeah. Big chance it will crack, so I still have my hopes high for this one. Now I have 2 more projects to work on, the berry bowl and the big salad bowl, so I'm going to throw those and then I'm just going to call it a day in the studio. Then I'll go over to my bedroom and start editing this video, because that also needs to happen. And then yeah, tomorrow I will be back in the studio as well. Here is the berry bowl, and now please appreciate this beautiful transition. Whoosh! All of a sudden it's a big bowl, which I'm now going to make. And because I've been practicing throwing bigger, I thought let's talk a little bit about it, what I've learned so far, my experience. So I've mainly been focusing on throwing bigger vases, and this time I threw a bigger bowl. And I actually feel like throwing bigger bowls is easier than throwing bigger vases, because the difficulty is, I think, mainly within pulling up the walls as high as you can, and with a vase the walls just need to be higher than with a bowl, because yeah, a vase is just a straight cylinder basically. Yeah, I'm mainly struggling with pulling up the walls and get them high. With the bowl it's easier because you can just pull it outwards, and by just pressing the clay a little bit outwards, it goes outwards very easily, because the clay kind of wants to go outwards because it's spinning. So yeah, I think if you want to practice throwing bigger, maybe start off with a bowl. The unfortunate thing about throwing bigger balls is that balls can collapse, and vases, I mean a vase can collapse when throwing. You can always throw it too thin and it can just fall apart. But with a bowl it can kind of fall outwards, and since most vases are quite straight, they don't collapse that easily as a bowl. So with a bowl you kind of have to know where to stop. I always leave the bottom a little bit thicker. Some people may say that you have to trim it very thin, but I personally prefer to just keep the bottom a little bit thicker, or like the bottom part on the outside a little bit thicker, so that I'm sure that it won't collapse, and then the next day I will just cut away a bit more clay and make it nice and round. I also always like to make the bottom while I'm throwing it quite wide, but then when I'm throwing it I like to make it quite small, and I think that's just the best way to do it. For me at least. If you're able to throw a ball very thin and it's not collapsing, good for you, I'm proud of you, go for it. But you can also just keep it a little bit thicker at the bottom if you're afraid of it collapsing. Oh, and another important thing about throwing bigger, I included that in a reel recently on Instagram, that is that I've been throwing with recycled clay when I'm throwing bigger pieces. Because the clay that I normally use is quite hard and it's not necessarily a problem, I can throw with it, but I felt like I was struggling a bit to pull up the clay and get the clay centered, because it was just a little bit harder than I would like it to be. So I did some recycling and I just decided to not let it dry out for too long, so that the clay was a little bit wetter and a little bit softer than it normally is. And because of that, it's a little bit easier to throw bigger pieces, I feel like. It's easier to control the clay. It's a bit softer, so maybe it also will collapse a little bit faster. But so far I don't really have any problems with it, and I actually really like it. So from now on, every time that I will reclaim some clay, I will just keep it a little bit wetter and not let it dry out for too long. So maybe that's something that you could also try out if you feel like your clay is a little bit too hard when throwing bigger pieces. And then this bowl is finished and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it's a great shape. Can't wait to trim it tomorrow, which will be included in the next video. I think it looks pretty cool and I can't wait to glaze it and later on make a salad in it. That was it for today in the studio. Thank you very much for tagging along. I hope you enjoyed watching me work and just, also felt the cozy vibes from today. Please come back next week to see me finish all of these pieces. I will record that tomorrow, but upload the video next week. For now, I hope you have a nice day and I hope to see you later. Bye bye!